So, so we're going to learn a little bit more about Sherlock Holmes, okay? So let's take a look there. Can you see the page here on Google Classroom? So here, who is Sherlock Holmes by Neil Macau? So let me try to toggle full screen here so you can see that. Let's take a look.
More than a century after first emerging into the fog-bound, gaslit streets of Victorian London, Sherlock Holmes is universally recognizable. Even his wardrobe and accessories are iconic. The Inverness cape, deerstalker hat, and calabash pipe. And figures such as his best friend and housemate, Dr. Watson, arch-nemesis Moriarty, and housekeeper Mrs. Hudson have become part of the popular consciousness, as have his extraordinary infallible powers of deduction utilized in the name of the law, his notorious drug use, and his popular catchphrase, "Elementary, my dear Watson." And yet many of these most recognizable features of Holmes don't appear in Arthur Conan Doyle's original stories. Doyle's great detective solves crimes in all sorts of ways, not just using deduction. He speculates and at times even guesses, and regularly makes false assumptions. Furthermore, Mrs. Hudson is barely mentioned. No one says "Elementary, my dear Watson," and the detective and his sidekick live apart for much of the time. Moriarty, the grand villain, only appears in 2 stories. The detective's drug use is infrequent after the first 2 novels, and Holmes is rarely enthralled to the English legal system. He much prefers enacting his own form of natural justice to sticking to the letter of the law. Finally, many of the most iconic elements of the Holmesian legend aren't Doyle's either. The deerstalker cap and cape were first imagined by Sidney Paget, the story's initial illustrator. The curved pipe was chosen by American actor William Gillette so that audiences could more clearly see his face on stage. And the phrase "elementary, my dear Watson" was coined by author and humorist P.G. Wodehouse. So who exactly is Sherlock Holmes? Who's the real great detective, and where do we find him? Purists might answer that the original Sherlock, inspired by Arthur Conan Doyle's university mentor, Dr. Joseph Bell, is the real one. But the fact remains that that version of Sherlock has been largely eclipsed by the sheer volume of interpretation, leaving Doyle's detective largely unrecognizable. So there's another, more complex, but perhaps more satisfying answer to the question. But to get there, we must first consider the vast body of interpretations of the great detective. Since Conan Doyle's first story in 1887, there have been thousands of adaptations of Holmes, making him perhaps the most adapted fictional character in the world. That process began with Victorian stage adaptations and accelerated with the emergence of film. There were more than 100 film adaptations of Holmes in the first 2 decades of the 20th century alone, and since then, there have been many thousands more in print and on film, television, stage, and radio. Holmes has been reinterpreted by people everywhere, in remarkably different and often contradictory ways. These adaptations demonstrate both Holmes's popularity and his malleability. For instance, he featured in a number of Allied anti-Nazi propaganda films during World War II, and both Winston Churchill and Franklin Delano Roosevelt were avid enthusiasts, the latter even joining the Baker Street Irregulars, a Holmesian appreciation society, and nicknaming one Secret Service hideout Baker Street. And yet, at the very same time, Holmes also appeared in various German-language film adaptations, some of which were said to have been much-loved favorites of Adolf Hitler. So let's return to our question. Would the real Sherlock Holmes please stand up? The truth is that this world of adaptation has made him into a palimpsest. Sherlock is a cultural text, repeatedly altered over time as each new interpretation becomes superimposed over those that precede it. This means that Sherlock continually evolves, embodying ideas and values often far removed from those found in Conan Doyle. And after each particular story ends, Sherlock rises again, a little changed perhaps, with a new face and fresh mannerisms or turns of phrase, but still essentially Sherlock, our Sherlock. London, Sherlock. More.
Very nice, isn't it, Larissa? You see, so the real Sherlock Holmes is completely different from the ones we know, right? Totally different. You saw that TV series that you watched, right? You mentioned the TV series that you watched.
Yeah.
Which Sherlock Holmes did they choose? Did they picture there? Was it closest to the real one? Which version of Sherlock Holmes, the
I
detective,
think
did they
is
show?
the who said in the end of the video. The Sherlock is changing about the time, so da geração tem Sherlock diferente.
Yes, every generation, yes, each and every generation has a different Sherlock. Yeah, that's true. We have our own Sherlock, but we don't know if it's the same one that the people back in the 20th century, early 20th century had. So it might be completely different. Yeah, that's true. And it's crazy, isn't it? Because he is a kind of character that has lasted for so many years and he's still very current. Everybody knows him. It's amazing, isn't it? How can a character be so present and so vivid in our memories that everybody knows about him? You see, everywhere in the world, people know something about Sherlock Holmes, or they've seen the videos, or the films, or they've read the books. Incredible, isn't it? So let's see our book again. Can you see that page? Yes.
Yes, I can.
Look, um, the first one here actually is a set of questions. We have 3 questions just for us to define who Sherlock Holmes actually is. Let me clear the answers there and make it a little bigger so we can say it. The first one says Sherlock Holmes lived in
London.
Chicago, London, or Edinburgh. Okay. Stories about him first appeared in the 19th century, 20th or 21st.
I think it's 19.
The 19th, yeah.
Uh,
He he was helped in all his adventures by,
Dr. Watson.
yes. Do you know why his best friend is a doctor?
I don't know exactly. In the series, he is the best friend because he have a problem in the leg, but he is como é que se fala, ex-militar.
Oh, an ex-military man
And
or
in
an
this series,
ex-military officer.
he is an ex-military officer. So when we stay together with Sherlock, we can remember the good era, the good time who was fighting for
Oh,
something, right?
okay,
So
I see.
in the series, this, but I don't know in the book.
Okay, yeah. Actually, the guy who wrote the book, the author of all these stories, is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He is the writer. So let me write here. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So this is the name of the writer who created this detective. And Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was actually in real life, I mean, before he became a writer, He was a doctor. Okay. So this is what people say. They say that he decided to create a companion or a friend to help Sherlock Holmes. He decided to create a doctor as a friend. Okay, that's why he created Dr. Watson, because he himself, the author, was a doctor. Okay, this is what I heard. That's very interesting. The guy who created the story was actually a doctor, and so he decided to make um, Mr. Watson his doctor friend. Okay. All right. So let's see here. The next one. Oh, first, let's check the answers to that first part. Okay. Yes, everything correct. So let me
Woohoo.
clear here. Yes, let me clear that. Congratulations, Larissa. Very good. So let's see the next part. You're going to read a Sherlock Holmes story called The Three Students. Look at the picture and headings. What can you guess about the story? So look here. We have the title here, The Three Students, right? And here we have the picture with a heading. Who copied the exam questions? So what do you think the story is all about?
Fraude.
Fraud. Okay. Fraud. Uh-huh. Probably. So let's see. Read part one and answer the questions. And as you can see, there are some new words for us to learn. Okay? So they are highlighted. Let's see the questions first. Question number one. Where was Sherlock Holmes staying? Why? Question two. Who is Hilton Soames? Question three. What did Mr. Soames receive that afternoon? Question four. What was lying on the floor when he returned to his room after tea? Number five. Why did Mr. Soames refuse to call the police? He could have, but he decided not to. Number six. Who is Bannister? Number seven. What clues did Mr. Soames find? Do you know the meaning of the word clues? Larissa, are you there?
Sorry, because I'm eating.
Oh, it's okay, no problem. Do you know the meaning of the word clues?
Provas.
Yes, yes, when we're talking about a crime, they are like evidences, okay?
Ah,
So, what clues did Mr. Soames find? Hi, Mateos, welcome. Good to see you. Hi, dear. We are talking about Sherlock Holmes, the biggest detective of all times. So here we are reading some questions that we will answer after we read part one. Okay. Question number 8. What does he think has happened? Okay, all right. Thank you, Mateus. Thank you very much. All right. So let's first of all take a look at the first part to see the answers to the first group of questions, right? First of all, where was Sherlock Holmes staying? Why? So let's see that. Here we have part one. Do you have your book there, Larissa?
Yes, I have.
Yes,
I
I
have the book.
do.
I do. Já, meu
Okay.
inglês está todo ruim já.
All right. You need to practice more. You need to read more books in English, right? So I have to do the same as well. I have to read books in English. It helps a lot. So let's take a look here. Instead of having one person reading out loud, I would rather ask you to read in silence and then we can check some of the answers, okay? So let me see if Mateus has the book. Mateus, do you have the book? If you don't, that's okay. I will leave the book here, I mean the text here on the screen, and you can read, and afterwards I will just move the page up a little bit. Okay? No problem. Okay, don't worry, Mateus. I will leave the page here. So I will give you, now it's 5:24. So I'll give you 5 minutes. Is that okay? 5 minutes for you now, 25. 5 minutes for you to read the text and then we can discuss together. Okay? So let's go.
Teacher, é só a primeira parte que é para ler?
Yes, just the first part so far, okay? All right, Mateus, have you finished? Okay, as you noticed here, I highlighted some important pieces of information to help us answer the questions, okay? So this is a nice technique for you to use when you are doing an exercise based on a text like reading comprehension. You go around, you highlight the important parts, okay, as you read. So they help you answer the questions that you read before, okay? So always interesting. Read the questions first and then you read the text. And as you suspect that information is going to be useful, you highlight the information, okay? So here, let's see the first question. Where was Sherlock Holmes staying and why? Larissa.
He was visiting or the visiting famous university in England.
Yeah, he was in, you can just say just the way it is here. He was in, because it's nice to practice, right? When you reproduce or relate what you see in a text, okay? What is written in a text. So you can say, oh, I was in one of England's most famous university towns. Try to say that, Larissa.
He was in one of England's most famous university towns.
Great. Exactly. Exactly. This is it. So in England, Larissa, there are some famous university towns. Example, Oxford. Yes, Oxford is a university, but it's also the name of the town where the campuses are. So in Oxford, there are different colleges, all right, all in the same town. The other one, Cambridge. Cambridge is also a
I think
university
it
town.
was only a name of college, but I don't know. It's like a name of the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a name. Yeah, it's a name of a small city. A small city where you have this big university full of colleges. It's really common in England to find university towns, okay? Because the universities are good, they are really good and they are famous. People go from all over the world to study there. And the universities have grown so much that they occupy most of the city. Because they have lots of buildings, they have campuses, and many other things. So the universities, they have become like a town. Okay, so Cambridge is like that, Oxford is like that, and so many others. Okay, these are only two to give you an example. So where was where was Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson? In one of these university towns. Okay, what were they doing there? They were doing some,
Visit.
look, see, look at
Aí,
the
calma aí.
text. Look at the text. They were doing
Some doing research.
research.
Research. Nossa,
They were
research.
doing some research. Research is the same as pesquisa in Portuguese, okay? So what were they doing there? They were doing some
Doing some
research.
research.
Okay, that's why, okay, so this is the answer to the first question, okay? So where was Sherlock Holmes staying? In one of England's most famous university towns, and why? Because they were doing some research.
Research. Eu cismo de ler research. Eita, como é que é? Caramba, research.
So the final sound, yes, listen, Larissa. The final sound of this word is similar to the first sound of the word chair. Can you say that? Chair, please.
Chair.
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 Chair. Here in the picture, look, here in the picture, you can see a chair. All right? This is a chair. So the final sound of the word research is the same as the first or the beginning sound of the word chair. So research. Research. Can you say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you try to repeat that, please? Research.
Research.
Good. Perfect. That's it. So they were doing some research. Hi, Mateus. Welcome back. Let's take a picture before Mateus crashes again, because I think he's having issues. Oh, your light. Okay, your electricity. You had a power surge. Okay, no problem. Let's take a picture right now so you don't have any problems. Just a second, guys. Let me try to make it bigger. Oh yeah, that's not really necessary. So let me print here. Now let me save the picture, because early today, I took a picture like this during the class, but I forgot to save the picture. And then when the class was over, I had already used the tools to copy the image, and I couldn't save the picture anymore. So I have to do it now before I forget. So let me save here. Okay, picture saved. Thank you, guys. Sorry about the interruption. So we've done number one. Now we are doing number two, okay? Who is Hilton Suams?
He's a tutor at one of the colleges.
Great, very good, Larissa, perfect. So exactly this, okay? Excellent. Now number three, what did Mr. Soames receive that afternoon?
Cadê? He receives the geek, a Greek, the Greek,
The Greek
the Greek translation paper.
papers. Okay. The Greek translation papers, they are the papers for the exam that was going to happen the following day. So that afternoon, he received the Greek translation papers. So probably Mr. Soames or Hilton Soames, sorry, was the tutor of Greek translation. That was his subject. okay? And then he received the Greek translation papers that afternoon, and then something happened. Let's see. Look, what was lying on the floor when he returned to his room after tea? Look.
The papers.
Uh-huh. So he says that I went to have tea with a friend, and when I returned, what happened? I saw immediately that the papers had been disturbed, and some of the papers were lying on the floor by the window. So very bad. Something was going on, right? Because he left the papers on his desk. He had put the papers on his desk before he left for tea. When he came back, the papers were lying on the floor. Some of them, right? By the window. So was that just the wind, or did somebody go there to see the papers? Okay. Next question. Why did Mr. Soames refuse to call the police?
Um, they don't want to have a scandal, so cadê?
Very good. Look here. We can't have a scandal
At the college.
at the college. So they didn't want to have a scandal at the college, or they can't have a scandal at the college. Because when you call the police, everything goes public, right? Everybody knows about it. So they didn't want that kind of scandal. Okay, good. Now, number 6. Who is Bannister?
The server?
Yes, actually his servant. Okay. So the tutor has actually at that time had a servant. Okay. And Mr. Hilton Soames had a servant, and his name was Bannister. Okay. And he said that he had been in the room after Mr. Soames left, but he denied touching the papers, and I believe him. So Mr. Soames believes his servant. Okay. So here the answer to number 6 is Mr. Soames' servant. Okay. Not server. Server is the same as waiter in a restaurant or a diner. So that's a server. Here, we're not talking about a server. We are talking about a servant. Okay? Do you know the difference?
Server é garçom.
Yes.
Servant é o quê?
A servant is like an assistant who helps the teacher. Okay?
Servant.
All right. Servant. Okay. Usually, it's because we don't have those kinds of uh, assistants nowadays. But in the past, when you worked for a college as a tutor or a professor, you usually had a servant, a person who would take care of your material, of the room, your office. So he would even help you clean the office, keep everything tidy and clean. He would help with the students, okay? But mostly administrative stuff, okay? So he had a servant, and his name was Bannister. Number 7. What clues did Mr. Suams find? So let's go down here and see the clues.
He found a broken pencil. Also, there was a cut about
Cut.
3 long, but cut.
Yes.
É tesoura, cut? Não sei.
No, a cut is like an opening. Okay. No?
Não, o que que eu achei? É tipo, o quê?
No. So what you said in Portuguese, in English, we say scissors.
Scissor
Scissors is
é
what we
tesoura.
use. Yes, scissors is what we use to cut things, okay? Here, when I find a cut about 3 inches long in the red leather top of my desk, uh, you're going to see that there is an opening, okay? So there is a kind of rupture of something,
É
maybe
um
made with.
buraco.
Sorry, can you repeat, please, Larissa?
É tipo que é um buraco
Yes,
na
an
mesa.
opening. Yes,
Ah,
a
tá.
cut. Yes, in Portuguese, I didn't want to say that. Actually, I was trying to explain without translating, but it's exactly that. It's an opening. Okay. So it's usually like a rupture, something that you can provoke with a knife or a pair of scissors. Okay. So there was a cut about 3 inches long in the red leather top of his desk. Okay. And next to it, what else did he find?
Um,
A small lump of
I
black
black
mud.
mud, but I don't understand this small lump of black mud. I don't know what it is.
Okay, all right. So a small lump of black mud. Do you know the meaning of mud?
No.
Mud is when you mix water and soil. For example, if you walk on a wet terrain, suppose you go to a plantation, right? Suppose you are in a farm and you visit a plantation. The ground you step on is usually wet because there is water, right, in the ground. So when you come out of the plantation, usually your boots are dirty, they are full of mud, okay, because you walked on the plantation. So your boots, your shoes, they get really dirty with mud. For example, when it's raining a lot here in the city, now coming out of the countryside, going to the city, when it rains a lot and you are walking out in the rain, you may get some mud in your shoes because there is water mixed with dust. So this combination creates mud, especially the streets where there is no pavement. Some streets in the city, not here in Rio so much, but if you go to the outskirts of the city, to faraway neighborhoods, some streets have no pavement. So what happens when it rains? The streets get really muddy. It gets really muddy and slippery, so it's difficult to walk on them and also to drive, right? So you can get stuck there if you drive in a muddy street, actually on a muddy street. So do you understand now the meaning of mud?
Yes, yes.
Yes? Okay. So we have mud in different situations. In this case here, they are in a town, in a small town in England in the 19th century or early 20th century. So probably not all the roads were paved, right? So it was very common for students to get mud in their shoes. Okay, so here what they found inside his office was a small lump of black mud. So it's like a small ball of black mud. Okay, Larissa? Yes? Is it clear for you, Mateus? Can you understand? Let me try to show you a picture, guys. So you know what we are talking about. Look, can you see the picture? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so here we have mud lump images. So here it's really clear for you to see. Here we have some mud lump. Okay, so here's some lumps, you know, these circular things, right? You get when you walk on terrain like this, okay, or like this. In this picture, we have what we call black mud. You see, the mud is really, really dark. All right, so it's usually a small lump you get, or more than one, right? You get several lumps in your shoes. So let me see if I can show you other pictures. Of course, this image seems to be black and white, but let me see this image here. Oh, this is very small. Okay, let me show you here. Can you see this tire here? This is like a tire of a car or a motorcycle. Can you see here in between? Inside here, there are some lumps of mud, okay? Can you see that? Very small. The picture is really small. Maybe it's not clear for you to see. But this picture here is perfect. It shows exactly what we are talking about. So what he found in his office was a small lump of mud, just a small piece. Okay, Larissa? Okay, Mateus?
Okay, teacher.
This is what he found. So it's an indication that somebody got in the office, right? And especially somebody who had walked on a terrain full of mud, okay? So they found a broken pencil, a cut, and a small lump of black mud. Okay. Excuse me. So what do you think has happened? I mean, what does he think has happened? What do you think? Look, here we have the picture. Okay, this is on his desk. Look, the papers on the floor, and there is a slump. Maybe they can't show here, but a lump of mud on the floor. Here,
Now, someone must have compiled the exam question. Right.
someone must have copied the exam questions. This is the deduction we make. Remember, our lesson is about deduction. So someone must have copied the exam questions. Try to say that, Larissa.
Wait, hi, teacher.
Sorry, I'm just asking you to say the sentence that I'm saying. Someone must have copied the exam questions.
Someone must have copied the exam question.
Yes, the
A
exam
copy
questions.
or
Yes.
copied? A copy.
Copied. Copied.
Copy.
Uh-huh. Copied. Uh-huh. Okay, good. So unfortunately, this is what must have happened. Someone must have entered his office and if not copied, but tried to copy. Okay. All right. So we answered the first questions. Now, and this is what he thinks. Actually, Mr. Soames, he thinks that that happened. Okay. Let's check the answers to the first part before we move on. Okay, it's opening now. Okay. So here we have the answers. You can compare with the answers we gave. Okay. Oh, look, here they are providing something extra. Look, Mr. Soames is also an old school or an old acquaintance and tutor at one of the colleges. Okay.
Mm,
So, yeah, Sherlock
what is this
Holmes,
acquaintance? What is this?
acquaintance, pronunciation, acquaintance.
Acquaintance. Acquaintance.
Yes, acquaintance. An acquaintance is like conhecido in Portuguese. It's somebody you
Ah,
know, a person that is not really your friend, not necessarily your friend, but a person that you've met before. Okay. And here, an old acquaintance. Okay. And now, tutor at one of the colleges. Okay. Here, the papers for the Greek translation exam. This is what he left there on his desk. And some of these papers were lying on the ground, on the floor. Okay. He didn't want to have a scandal. That's why he didn't call the police. Bannister is Mr. Soam's servant. The clues they found.
Nista.
Oops, what happened? Very
I
nice, Mateus. Mateus is asking here, isn't there an easier way to call a person conhecido in English? No, acquaintance. Yes. Okay. So what are the clues they found? A broken pencil, a cut in the leather top of his desk, and a small lump of black mud. And then what does he think happened? Someone must have copied the exam questions, just like we said. Okay, good. So now let's go on to the next part. Let me try to close this window here.
teacher, I need
Yes,
to go
Larissa.
because my time is out, so I need to back to my job.
Oh, what a pity. Okay, Larissinha. So
So I need to
please,
go.
later on, try to watch the video so you can get the other answers. Okay, because we're going to do part
Okay.
2 now. All right.
Okay.
Okay, dear.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Larissa. Bye bye. So let's go, Mateus. Read part 2 and who and what can you see in the picture? So let's see the second part because we are going to read the second part and try to answer these questions to say if they are true or false. Okay, so let's take a look at the picture first. Here, this is part 2. Okay, just to show you where it is. Before we read, we should see the picture that they're showing here on this page. So let's zoom in. So, okay. All right. So here the question is, who and what can you see in the picture? Let's see there. Can you name the people in the picture? This one here, yes, Sherlock Holmes. Okay. And then, who is Dr. Watson? Probably this gentleman here, okay? And here, who do you think he is? Mr. Soames, yes, his friend, Mr. Hilton Soames. And what can you see in the picture? There is a big window, yes. Look outside. It seems to be one of the students, okay? And look at the papers all over the place. Look, broken pencil, big mess, okay? The lump of mud that Mr. Holmes, now Sherlock Holmes, is examining. Okay, now let's see the sentences. We need to find out whether they are true or false. We have to decide. Let's see the sentences first. Okay, Mateus? The first one, the tutor's room was on the same floor as the three students. So now in the second part, he's going to mention three students from that college, okay? And here the information is, let's try to highlight here, if it's possible, right? Yeah, I can't. So let me see. Yeah, that's okay. I was going to highlight here the information on the same floor. This is important. So the tutor's room was on the same floor as the three students. Is it really true? We will see that. Number two, Holmes couldn't see into the room through the window. So in the picture, as if he's talking about being outside and seeing into the room. And according to Mr. Holmes, he couldn't see into the room through the window. So if you are outside, he said it's not possible to see the contents in the room. You may see the people standing, but not the contents, okay? This is what he is saying. Is it true or false? Number three, he found a clue on the carpet. So we don't know. Maybe this is the clue he found. Okay, let's see the next. The papers were next to the window because it was easier to read them in the light. So here we can see the papers next to the window. So is that the reason why they were here? Because they could be seen in the light? We don't know. Let's see. Number five, Holmes found another clue in the bedroom. Yes. In the past, Mateus, it was very common for a tutor to have an office and next to the office, a small bedroom so that he could stay there when necessary. Okay. Most of the times, tutors and professors, they used to sleep in the university. Okay. They would spend days there without going home. So the university was their home, in other words, okay, until they were working there. So if, for instance, they needed to stay overnight, so they would have a bedroom to stay, okay? So here, Holmes found another clue in the bedroom. Next one, number 6. The intruder saw Mr. Soames returning. So did he really see that when he was about to copy the answers or copying the answers? Did he see Mr. Soames coming back and then he tried to run away? And finally, he escaped through the study window. So, did he escape through that window here? Let's see, okay? So let's take a look at part number 2 and try to answer these questions. So let's go to the other page here. Okay, Mateus, can you see the text? Is it clear for you? Can you read it? Yes? Is the font okay? All right. So let's take a look at part 2, only this part here, and then we will see the answers, okay? So let's see, I think 2 minutes is enough, okay? Let's do it. Okay, Mateus, have you finished? Okay. All right. So a lot of interesting pieces of information there, right? That's interesting. I like this story. So let's go back to the previous page here. Let's see. The first one, the tutor's room was on the same floor as the three students. Is that true or false? Yes, very good. That's false. Yes, remember when he said there that one student lived on each floor above the tutor's room. So above his room on the following or on the next floor lived one student and then another student above that and then another student. So it was a sequence of floors, one student on each floor. Holmes couldn't see into the room through the window. He couldn't say. Is that true or false? Yes, exactly. That was true. He couldn't see. Number three, he found a clue on the carpet. Yes, very good. In the office, sorry, Mateus, on the carpet, he found actually in the bedroom, he found a clue, but not in the office, okay? Number four, the papers were next to the window because it was easier to read them in the light. I don't think so, Mateus. I don't think that was true. Let me show you the page here. Can you see? Just a second. Look, look. Someone took the papers from your desk over to the window table to copy them because from there he could see when you were returning. So it was not because of the light, but for them to see if Mr. Soames was coming. So it was a way for them to watch out. Okay? Okay, Mateus. So it wasn't really because of the light, but from here you could see if someone was coming. Okay? So here we have false. Number five, Holmes found another clue in the bedroom. True or false? Yes, that's true. He found another clue. The intruder saw Mr. Soames returning. No. Yes, that's right. He didn't see. Why not? Because Mr. Soames didn't come from outside. He used another door to get into the office. So he's surprised, basically. Okay? All right. So here, he escaped through the study window. How did he escape? Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's take a look there. So here he said, look, actually, Holmes, nobody could see me. Can you see that? When he says that when he came back, nobody could see him. Look. I came back through the side door. So he didn't come through the usual door. He used another door. So then Mr. Holmes said, oh, so you may have surprised him and he has to leave in a hurry. So did you hear anything? No, he didn't hear anything. So Mr. Holmes thought, that's interesting. So your only clues are the cut, one small lump of black mud, and then he discovered the bedroom. When he asked if he could examine, he entered the bedroom with Mr. Soames, and then when he was there, he found another lump of black mud. Okay, so then here he says, clearly your visitor came into the bedroom. And then Dr. Soames, Mr. Soames, he was confused and he said, I don't understand. Why did he do that? And then he says, Sherlock Holmes, well, when you came back so suddenly, he must have run into your bedroom to hide. Look at the bedroom window. It's open. So that must be how he escaped. So he used the bedroom window to escape. Look. Okay, Mateus. So here, back to the exercise. The situation here says, or the question says, he escaped through the study window. That's false. He didn't escape through the study window. He escaped through the bedroom window. Okay. All right, let's check the answers. Everything correct. Okay, Mateus. Fantastic. So here, they ask us to read part 3. I'm going to ask you to read that for homework. I will send you the copy of part 3. Okay, Mateus, because I know you don't have the book. The question we should answer is, what motives did each of the students have? Remember, there are 3 students who are like suspects. What motives did they have to get into the tutor's office and copy the answers to the test? Who do you think copied the papers? Why? This is the main question I'd like you to answer, okay? The motives they had, each one of them. Who do you think copied the papers? And we're going to see here, we have some probabilities. I think it could have been, or no, it can't have been so and so. Okay, so I will show you the page just so you know the text you need to read so you can answer the question, and then we will do the other activities next class. Look, here we have the 3 suspects, okay? I will send you a copy of this text right now after class. All right, Mateus? So let's go over to our page here on Google Classroom. What did we talk about today? We saw a small part of a story by Sherlock Holmes, actually, Sir Conan Doyle, so the author of Sherlock Holmes stories. So we saw a small part of one of his stories called The 3 Students. This story, Mateus, is in a book called The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, okay? So it's very interesting. The homework I'd like you to do is workbook page 74. And you can also take a look at this link here so you can have some more information about this book, where this story came from. Okay? So you can read more about it. So the other ones here are all for next class. Okay? Phrasal verbs. So thank you so much for coming, Mateus. I hope to see you again on Thursday. Try to come on Thursday. It will be very interesting, okay? And I will send you a copy of the text. All right? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear. Sorry, there was a noise here that distracted me. Sometimes it's really noisy here. I'm sorry about that. So take care, okay, Mateus? See you on Thursday. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye.